When I got that call from my daughter, her voice shaking, whispering, "Dad, he hit me," my heart stopped cold. I'd dealt with arrogant HOA presidents, nosy neighbors, and fake smiles behind perfect white fences before, but this was different. This wasn't about parking violations or trash cans left too long on the curb. This was about my daughter, my Emily. The one person who made my whole world make sense. And in that instant, something inside me switched. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was something colder, deeper. It was the feeling a father gets when someone crosses a line they can never uncross. It had started like any other Thursday afternoon. The sun was hanging lazily above the neighborhood, spilling golden light across the manicured lawns and spotless driveways. Everything looked picture perfect, the way our homeowners association, our HOA, liked it. Our community was run more like a kingdom than a neighborhood, and its self-appointed king was Rick Dalton, our HOA president. Everyone knew him. Late 50s, silver hair slicked back like he was auditioning for a car commercial, an expensive watch that gleamed louder than his laugh, and an ego bigger than the houses he fined people for not pressure washing. Rick loved control. He lived for it. And most people around here had learned the hard way not to stand in his way. But Emily never learned that kind of fear. My daughter was 20, working part-time at the small cafe inside the community clubhouse to save up for college. She had this warm smile that disarmed people, and a stubborn streak that reminded me of her mother. She believed in fairness, in doing things the right way, even when it wasn't easy. That afternoon, Rick strutted into the cafe like he owned the place. He didn't even bother waiting in line. He walked straight up to the counter, slammed a stack of HOA documents down, and said loudly, "One large caramel latte on the house." Emily, polite as always, smiled and said, "Sorry, Mr. Dalton, but the cafe doesn't offer free drinks, even for VIPs." The few customers nearby chuckled quietly, trying to hide their grins. Rick didn't. His eyes narrowed. "You kids think you know everything, don't you?" he snapped. Emily didn't back down. "I just know the register doesn't have a Rick Dalton discount button." That was it. The spark that lit the fire. Rick's face turned beet red. He leaned over the counter, his voice dripping with venom. "Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" And before she could even respond, he slammed his hand down, knocking over a cup of hot coffee, and his hand caught her cheek. The cafe went silent. The cup shattered. Emily stumbled back, a red mark already blooming on her face. And the mighty HOA president froze, realizing too late that everyone had seen it. I was across town when my phone rang. I still remember her voice, quiet, trembling, but holding back tears. "Dad, he hit me." I didn't even hang up properly. I just grabbed my keys and drove. I don't remember red lights. I don't remember speed limits. I only remember the pounding in my chest, and the word hit echoing over and over in my head. By the time I burst through those cafe doors, the air inside was thick, like everyone was holding their breath. And there he was. Rick Dalton. Still there. Acting like nothing had happened. He was arguing with the manager, trying to twist the story into something it wasn't. My daughter stood behind the counter, an ice pack pressed to her face, her eyes wide when she saw me. That image, her trying to stay strong, burned itself into me forever. I walked straight up to Rick, my voice steady but dangerous. "You hit my daughter?" He smirked, that smug little curl of his lips that he probably practiced in the mirror. "Careful, sir. You're talking to the HOA president." The room went quiet. I could feel the heat rising in my blood, my hands curling into fists. But instead of losing control, I did something that surprised even me. I turned, grabbed the cafe's security remote from the counter, and replayed the footage on the big screen for everyone to see. The slap. The spill. The look on Emily's face. The entire room gasped. Even Rick took a step back. "That's not what it looks like," he shouted, his voice cracking. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You just lost your power, Rick." Then I stepped outside and made one phone call to the police. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just told them the truth. When the officers arrived minutes later, they reviewed the footage, took statements, and within moments, Rick Dalton, the man who thought he ran our lives, was in handcuffs. His face turned pale, his voice breaking as he tried to reason his way out of it. "It was an accident. I didn't mean to." But no one listened. The sound of his own arrogance collapsing was louder than anything he could say. As they led him out of the cafe, the mighty HOA president was crying. Real tears. The same man who had bullied this community for years now sobbed like a child as neighbors watched in silence. By that evening, everyone in the neighborhood had heard. The video spread like wildfire. For years, people had whispered about Rick's behavior, how he fined widows for weeds, threatened families for kids' bikes on driveways, and overcharged fees with no explanation. But nobody had dared to stand up to him. Until Emily. Within days, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. And in that meeting, something happened I never thought I'd see. The board members, one by one, voted Rick out. Unanimously. No hesitation. He was permanently banned from the HOA and stripped of all authority. He even tried to file an appeal, but when the footage hit social media, there was no coming back. The man who used to walk around barking orders now couldn't even show his face in public. A week later, I went back to the cafe with Emily. She was back behind the counter, smiling again, though there was still a faint mark on her cheek, a scar that would fade, but never truly disappear. People came up to her one after another, thanking her for standing up to him. "You did what we were all too afraid to do," one elderly woman said, squeezing Emily's hand. My daughter just smiled and said, "Sometimes you just have to do what's right." I sat in the corner with a cup of coffee, watching her laugh with the other baristas. And for the first time in a long while, our neighborhood felt peaceful. No more nasty letters. No more threats. Just quiet, genuine community again. That night, as we walked back home, Emily asked, "Dad, do you think he'll ever change?" I thought about it for a moment and said, "Maybe. But people like that don't change because they want to. They change because they're forced to." She nodded, slipping her arm through mine. The streetlights glowed softly, and for once, the air didn't feel heavy. It felt free. A few weeks later, a moving truck appeared outside Rick Dalton's massive house. Word was, he sold it at a loss and was leaving town. Nobody came out to wave goodbye. Nobody cared. The man who had ruled the neighborhood through fear left in silence. The same silence he had used to keep people in line for years. And as I watched from my porch, I realized something. Sometimes justice doesn't come from revenge or violence. Sometimes it comes from truth, raw, undeniable truth that hits harder than any punch ever could. Emily went on to finish college that year. She still works part-time at cafes, still stands up for herself, and still believes in doing the right thing no matter who's watching. Every now and then, someone from our old neighborhood sends me a message saying things have been better ever since Rick left. Kids play outside again. People smile at each other. There's laughter where fear used to live. And me? Every time I drive past that little cafe, I think back to that moment. Rick's face when the truth hit him harder than he ever hit my daughter. The tears, the shame, the fall of a bully who thought he could hide behind power. I think of how quickly arrogance turns to fear when it's exposed to the light. And I smile, knowing that sometimes the strongest revenge isn't in what you do, it's in what you don't do. You don't stoop to their level. You don't hit back. You let justice handle it. And justice, when it finally arrives, always hits harder.